Let's make a start. Welcome to our second Deafblind Information Hub webinar. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we are meeting. We are here at Expression Australia in East Melbourne, where the traditional owners are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We also pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where you are, which is all over Australia, and it's wonderful to have everybody connected here. The topic of today's webinar is preparing for your NDIS planning meeting. And we have 4 guest speakers, all who have good experience in preparing and being part of NDIS planning meetings. So before I introduce the first speaker, I just want to check if there's any other technology issues at this point, or if everybody's okay. Al is good. Eddie, good.
Thank you. Great. There's a message from Cara. Can you move the camera back a little bit as Terp's signing to the side, cutting out some of the signing?
Is that better, Cara? Yes, says Paula.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Okay. I'm going to introduce the speakers now. We are going to save questions until the end so that you can hear everything the speakers have to say, but you can ask questions using the chat while they are speaking, and Karen and Melissa will read them out as we go back to the speakers at the end. But if you don't want to use the chat and you would prefer to use your voice or sign, there will be an option to ask questions like that at the very end. So, to get started, I hope Justin's waiting at the door. To get started with our preparing for your NDIS planning meeting, I'm really pleased to introduce Justin Elks, who is the Senior Support Coordinator for ABLE Australia. So I'll swap places with Justin now. Okay, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mary, for the introduction. Thank you to everybody for allowing me to talk today. I'm going to cover 2 areas today. One is the role of a support coordinator, and 2 is pre-planning before NDIS and pre-planning before your annual review. Okay, so the role of a support coordinator is varied, but it's funding to enable capacity in the participant. That means we help you to learn how to, 1, understand your NDIS plan, learn what the budgets can purchase, 3, to help you understand how to negotiate with service providers, 4, how to navigate the NDIS system, and 5, to help you in a point of crisis. Now, for each person, those 5 areas are different. Everybody will have different skills and different ability to be able to work through those areas. Ultimately, your NDIS planning meeting is an opportunity for you to request that support to help you implement or start your plan. The level of funding that a person receives is different. There's no standard dollar amount. Okay. With your pre-planning before entering NDIS, some people may have had access to a case manager or a support person to help them. Speed up a little bit, sure. With that information that you may do with your case manager, you would want to look at different areas of your life. You may want to look at what your current supports are, being service providers or family or friends, the health department as well, and learning where they fit under an NDIS plan. You also want to work out a narrative or story about how you want to use your plan in the future. What is it that you want to achieve? Normally, from an ABLE perspective, we like to use around 5 to 7 hours pre-planning, going through different areas of your life, working out how you see services supporting you and what may look like in the future. We try to understand where your goals are coming from and whether or not the NDIS can help with funding for those. The process refines itself over a period of time. So as you work through those 5 hours, the idea is for your skills and knowledge around your own supports and possible supports in the future will increase. We use a particular tool called About Me. The About Me was developed for all clients within ABLE Australia. It is not specific for deafblind, but it covers the 9 life domains that the NDIS provide funding for.
Just need an interpreter swap, Justin.
Sure. We'll just wait for an interpreter. Aye. Okay. All right, we're good again. So those 9 life domains each have funding allocated to them from the NDIA. Before you go into your planning meeting, we want you to understand how the NDIA applies that funding to those life domains. And it's hard to understand. Sometimes the NDIA make decisions based on limited information, or sometimes the information is in conflict and they can't decide. So it's really important that you work through the About Me and its life domains, practicing how they link in with your goals and what you see your future looking like. One last section that I would like to cover off is pre-planning after your first or second or third NDIS plan. There is an expectation that you will learn knowledge and skills through your NDIS plan to enable you to better understand how the system works and how to align your goals with the different funding categories. We really encourage people through their life of their plan to think about how their goals are tracking. What does success look like for you with those goals? What are some of the barriers you are facing? And to talk about those and to document those with people that support you and that you think can help you in your next plan as well. A support coordinator should be meeting with you regularly to work through your goals. At ABLE, we like to meet with you at 6 months to review your plan in detail with goals and budgets. We then start to meet with you at about 9 months, working through your goals in more detail, what worked, what didn't work, and also planning for your new ones. And again, developing the narrative of what you would like to say to the NDIA. And then when we have your planning meeting, your support coordinator will have developed with you your goals in detail, where you believe the funding should come from to support, and a new budget to propose to the NDIA. We also develop what we call a cheat sheet to help you answer some of those more difficult questions, or if you need a little bit of guidance around how to answer some of those questions that come. So that pretty much sums me up. So I'd like to say thank you very much. And I will be introducing the next presenter, which is David Murray.
Michelle.
Or Michelle Stevens, sorry, I do apologise. Deafblind client Michelle Stevens.
See you later, thank you.
Oh, I've got the hot seat. Okay.
I'm just...
Did you need to mic me up?
No, you put there.
Okay. Sarah. Hiya, Sarah. Hiya. That's good.
Yep, great.
Okay. Can I?
Oh,
Okay, introduce you,
when
Ben.
you're finished. No, you're ready to go.
Yeah,
Yep.
ready.
So you can start. Yep.
Hi, before I start, I just want to make sure if those who are listening to my voice, if you want me to speak up louder or slow down, I will be happy to do that, particularly for interpreters, if you want me to speak slower, quicker, whatever. Please stop me and I'll be happy to adjust wherever. Okay, are we ready to start? Is everyone happy? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I learnt when I went for my first plan was to prepare. That is, it's such a new system of funding for you that it's really important that you have to do quite a lot of preparation before you start on your NDIS plan. Today, I just want to take you through some of the tips that I found very useful when I was preparing for my plan. I'm now on my second plan, and one of the factors that made a difference in my plan is that my personal circumstances changed quite a lot since I've had problems walking. And also since I am no longer able to use a guide dog and I have lost all my vision. So I've had a few medical impacts, I've had a few medical situations that has impacted on my life that I needed to ask for substantial more support than I used to have. I sat down with my case manager, similar to what Justin just spoke about, and we wrote a series of what do you enjoy doing. So I wrote down for myself, I wrote down, well, I'm living in a house that I'm finding difficult to access. I need a lot more support than the 6 hours a week I was getting. I really need a minimum of 23 hours a week support. Access to interpreters, particularly living in the country, was an issue, so I needed a lot more interpreter support. To be involved in my local church community and working volunteer for DBV, Deafblind Victoria, was also very, very important to me. But also, I wanted to improve my skills in cooking, going through physiotherapy to try and improve my walking. So all of these goals that I had in my for my life certainly took a lot of working out. I must tell you that the case manager can only do so much. It really is our responsibility as deafblind people to take responsibility. That is, you're in charge of your life. You're old enough to take charge of your life, and if you can, I think it's really important to sort of say, I need X, Y, Z. I don't have enough support when I'm with my family. For instance, none of my family is sign. So if I'm at a gathering with my family, I'm absolutely lost. I don't know what's going on. For instance, I live in the country, so I need a support worker for taking me to appointments, etc. Might be perhaps getting a hearing aid fixed because it's broken or something like that. But also for me, I actually found it very useful to write these goals down. So it took quite a few weeks to think about, okay, where am I now? How do I want to improve my life? And this could be done either yourself on your own, or this could be done with a case manager, or even if it's with you and a family member or a good friend who knows you well. So think about, how do you want to improve your life? Do you want to improve your life by being more involved in the community? For instance, when I asked about interpreter support, I said I'm going to need a minimum of, I don't think Justin's here now, but I think we said I need a minimum of 40 hours a week. Well, I got something like 25, 30 hours a week. For instance, I get 20 hours a week a support worker because I need a lot more assistance at home with walking, and I'm unable to use public transport independently now because of my mobility issues. So I had to sort of go for a support worker for 20 hours a week. Also, I wanted to, as I said, be more included in my church community. So I wanted to be involved with the community. So it's all these things that I wrote down that I want to do. For instance, I want to improve my abilities to cook instead of buying lots of frozen food. Yeah. Also, come the meeting, before the meeting, I spent time on the internet learning about what is the NDIS. It is a very, very different system to perhaps if you've had a a previous system that you might have had for the government, like ISP, or perhaps it's your first time you've had funding like this. It's really important that when you go to your meeting, you have the right to have a friend or someone to advocate for you. For instance, in my case, I had Justin. I think Justin came to my meeting, and as well, I had a good friend come with my support worker came with me, so that she could sort of assist with if I needed to go to the loo or something like that. So she actually came with me. As well, before the meeting, I actually had some practice runs with my friend, and also I had a practice run with my case manager. If you're able to have a practice run, a pretend meeting before the actual real meeting, that's a big help. That really is very, very worthwhile thinking about. On the actual day of the meeting, the night before, I wrote down key points in Braille. Because of being nervous, it is very easy to forget what you want to say about, and you only get really one opportunity in a sense to say, I need X, Y, Z. I don't have enough interpreter support. So if you look like that you're controlling the meeting and you know what you want, that really is a very big positive in your favour. That is, you really, they really like you to know that what you want. Instead of going to the meeting sort of saying, what can I do? They really would prefer you to take control of the meeting. So as I said, take notes with you. Just little ideas of saying, oh, I want to talk about interpreters. I want to talk about support workers. I want to get involved with my local community. So it's all these things because it's easy to forget what you want to talk about if you're nervous or if you're in a strange place. It doesn't have to be pages and pages of notes, just a line. Talk about where I am in life. During my meeting, interpret change. Thank you, sorry. Okay, interpret change. I'll just pause for a second. Right, okay, who we got here? Okay, hi, is it William? No? Benji, hello, Benji. Okay, I've got Benji, the interpreter, with me now. Okay, when I went to the meeting, they asked you, where is your life at the moment? So I actually had these in my notes. For instance, I had something like, I share with a friend, I find accessing my home very difficult because I can't walk very well. I have balance problems. I'm very isolated where I live because I'm quite a way out of town. Also, I have limited contact with my family. I need to have more connection with friends and family. So this is what they want to know from you, is how can they improve your life through the NDIS. Meredith, I think that is almost me finished, but I just wanted to make sure if anyone was following what I was saying, or if they're confused about anything that I'm saying, whether if there's anything people needed to ask, etc. Meredith.
So it's Meredith speaking. We are going to wait for questions later. We've just got 2 more speakers.
Okay.
So thank you, Michelle. Now.
Oh, sorry, Meredith.
It's okay. Oh, darling. And now we have David Murray.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, says Paula. Hi, says Carol.
My name is David Murray. I am the I'm the Executive Officer of Deafblind Australia. It's lovely to be presenting for the first time on the Deafblind webinar and to share my experiences with preparing for my NDIS plan. And I would like to thank Meredith for inviting me along to share with you all about some ideas about how we can make the most out of our plan. So am I speaking clearly? Everyone can hear me okay?
Yep, good. Good from Paula.
Claire's doing, yep, good.
I think Michelle made a good point earlier about being prepared for your plan. It's to work out what it is that you'd like to do with your life in terms of looking at what support you have in place and look at the things that you don't have in place. What would you like to do to include yourself into the community that you like to participate in? There's some of the things that you've never done before. The NDIS will bring that to you, with giving you more choice and control over your supports and the goals that you like to have. So, as the Executive Officer of Deafblind Australia, I've been quite fortunate to learn more about NDIS and look at what things have worked and what things haven't worked. I've also experienced feedback from deafblind people with how they've set up their plans and what could be done better. And I do recommend working with your families, your friends, and your networks that you have with you, such as your peers, your deafblind friends, your deaf friends, your blind friends, to look at how, you know, you can understand your goals and how it worked for them. You can also talk to your service providers or your support coordinators, who will give you a better understanding of what supports that may work for you and the goals that you can put on your plan. So we don't have to worry about how many hours or how many hours comm guides or how many hours of interpreters you need. Really, it's about what you want to do with your life. It's about, I want to go to the gym, or I want to go out to my friends, I want to communicate better with my family, I want to visit my deafblind friends. It could be anything. So once you have your goals set up, all the comm guides, interpreters will be put in place. So doing your homework, seeing how your life looks like with all the things you like to do. If you want to enjoy your life living as a deafblind person and get the most out of what you can do with your supports. So I actually prepared for my plan by talking to my partner, who's also deafblind, which is important that we both live a full life in what we do together. So it's important to list all the members in the family and all the networks you have, including the community participation. So although the NDIS will support you in doing all those things. So I remember I went to a planning interview with my partner Paola, who's on the screen. and the NDIS planner could see Paola and myself. We're both deafblind. So looking at that, the planner could see the need of having quite a lot of support for both Paola and myself. Even though this is Paola's plan, she'll have all the support to fulfill her life with me. So all the things that we like to do is going out to the movies, going to the winery, anything you like to do that's in your interest. So these are the sorts of things you need to put on your plan. So one of the toughest things I've experienced attending a planning interview was some of the questions that were going to be asked. We didn't know what type of questions would be thrown at us. That's why it's important to have a support person who's an advocate or someone that has an understanding of deafblindness and understands the NDIS system and your support. So this person will help you articulate or speak about your interests and goals. When I did my planning meeting, I didn't have any support. I was on my own, and I was quite nervous about the questions. I was hoping I would cover everything, but that's something I will consider, is have someone with you to support which questions are being asked, to be able to maximise your goals and the support that you will put in your plan. So I think, you know, this is my first plan, early plan, that I've just started to have. So I think if you're not happy with your plan, there's also opportunity to review. It doesn't mean that when you get your plan, that's it. You still have a chance to go back and talk about your goals, talk about what's been placed in your plan that you feel that's not set up in the way you like. You can always go back and have your support person with you, or your advocate, your support coordinator, to assist you with setting up your plan. And also encourage you all to continue networking with each other and be open about what supports are available. Some of the things that we don't know about, such as technology, and all the other things that we've never had before. I encourage you all to share the information. It doesn't mean you share the budget. It's all about what's possible, what can be put in your plan, what you didn't know about can be put in your plan. So I encourage you to keep contacting each other, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through Deafblind Australia Census or Able Australia. And I think we'll continue to work together as a team to make sure we get the most out of our NDIS plan. So I hope everyone's had a good feel what it's like to maybe learn what it takes to build an NDIS plan and to get most out of your life, and continue to share that knowledge with your peers to ensure they get the best out of their plan. So thank you very much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, we'll keep it up to the end. I'm quite happy to answer any of them. Thank you.
So it's Meredith speaking. I should have told everybody at the start that we had a change of speakers. Unfortunately, Alex let me know he was unwell and wasn't able to attend today. So I'm very grateful that David Murray agreed to step in at short notice. Thank you, David. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that was David Murray and not Alex Sarr. Now, it's with pleasure that I introduce Ryan Malonda, who is a senior planner for the NDIA. But just first, I just want to check everyone's technology is okay. No one's having any particular issues and that the interpreting is still clear.
Yes from Paula, yes from Eddie, yes from Pascale, yes from Marie, no from Carol.
Okay, that sounds great. Excellent. I'm pleased to hear that. Well, welcome, Ryan, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Hello everyone, I think I'll sign and maybe just get rid of Benji if that's okay. Yep, cool, work for you, yep, sweet. Alrighty, so I'm in the middle, yeah? You can all see me good? Yep, perfect. Alright, hi everyone. I am Ryan, so that's my name, Ryan, right there. And I'm deaf myself, so that's why I can just sign. Some of you have finished meeting me before, maybe at Deafblind camp or, you know, involved in community events or whatever. But some of you already know me as being involved in the NDIS. So thank you to Meredith for inviting me here to give a speech and presentation today. I am happy to be involved and explain and help you get a good NDIS plan. I want to make sure you receive the proper benefits and supports you should receive. I want to help you work out what information you need to get the NDIS and what information you need for the meeting. If I'm signing too fast or not clearly enough, please put your hand up and let me know, all right? All right, good. Thank you to Michelle and David and Justin. That's there to cover the different areas. That is worthy information for you to take on. I am here to talk about what the planning and meeting will involve. If you're a little bit not sure about NDIS, well, that's fair. It's a big thing. It's very different. A lot of people don't know what information they need or need to give. But hopefully, we hope it will open up new opportunities that people didn't before have the opportunity to access. So the biggest question is, what do you want? Sometimes you've never thought of what's possible. I want this, 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 and this. So a planning meeting, that is when you are accepted into the NDIS. So the NDIS will contact you to set up a time and date to meet and discuss. Maybe you'll meet with one NDIS representative, either local area coordinator or LAC. They work for the organisation who contract under NDIA. Or you will meet with a planner like me who works with the NDIA. Just depends on the staff available or the time. But your situation is very complicated. So maybe it would be good to go straight to a planner, but it really depends. Both roles are to gather your information and get to know you and understand how your disability, being deafblind, how that impacts you, because all deafblind people are affected in the same way? No, absolutely not. You've got a lot of variation around you, and we know that. We understand that. Some deafblind, like early deafblind, early onset, or later, ushers, go deaf later in life, go blind later in life. You all have different needs, and that's why it's important that you explain how you need your support and what your area is, because the client or LAC, do they know all disabilities super well? No, of course, it's impossible. But they know about deafblind in general. Do they know about your deafblindness? They might have a general understanding, but do they know about yours? No.
So we're just doing a little bit of an interpreter swap now. I might actually come over to your side. All right. Sorry, I just didn't realise that you couldn't see the interpreters. They're off screen. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So the NDIS planning meeting, the time frame for that is really around, 1.5 hours or 2 hours. But really, it depends on your communication needs. And what time you might need. It might stretch out the time frame depending on what you need. You might need a break in between to have a rest. So it's really good to make sure that you communicate those needs at the start and you actually say, look, I'm going to need a break. I use visual frame, I use Auslan or tactile, I might use braille or haptics, whatever your communication needs might be. So just make sure at the start you set that up and you say, I'm going to need a break every 20 minutes, for example. And the interpreter might need a break as well as we go through the meeting. So make sure you negotiate that in advance. It might be 2 hours, it could be 3 hours. If you feel like that's not enough to cover all your needs, which is quite possible, you might need to separate your meetings up into 2 different meetings, and that's fine, we can do that. We just need to organise that in advance. So if you need an interpreter, we also need to know, you need to book them, and we understand that process as well. There'll be lots of questions throughout the duration of the meeting. There'll be the LAC or the planner there, and they'll be writing down everything to make sure that we have a really good plan to meet your needs. And we really need to know what supports you need, what your goals are and what your goals. There we go. What are your goals and what you want? It's really important with the NDIS that all of your supports must link to your goals. They must be associated with your goals. If you want a comm guide for communication to go out and get involved in the community, but you don't have a goal that matches that community engagement or involvement, then that won't be funded. It really needs to be associated. There are rules that I must follow, and one of those, the number one rule is that your goals link to the funding and your supports. So we know what direction you're going in and we know where your plan's going for the next year. Your plan might take a bit of a different turn depending on what's happening in your life circumstances. So we really need to kind of be abreast of that information. In the meeting, we'll ask about if you're living alone or if you are living with a partner, if you're living with family or friends. We'll ask if you own a house. We'll ask if you're renting. And these are really good questions because you might need some equipment within your home. If you're renting, it's quite hard to get some of these adjusted devices. Having to contact the landlord to get the things that you need can be a really hard process. So we will ask you right now, and up until now, what else do you do in your everyday life? We'll ask you about what supports you need on an everyday capacity. Maybe you have family help. Maybe if you go to the doctors, you need to have a doctor's appointment. Maybe you'd prefer that your family didn't come to those appointments. Maybe you need a comm guide to go to a doctor's appointment. So we really need to try and work out what type of supports you need. And we really need to take that responsibility off your parents and give you your independence. So that's what we're kind of looking for with those questions, is finding ways for you to be more independent. We'll also ask questions about supports like, not disability supports, but we will ask if you have any really close friends or family that you see regularly. For example, Michelle was talking before that she had some family members, but unfortunately they don't sign. And that's really important information for us to know. We'll ask if you have any regular medical appointments or doctors that you see on a regular basis. For example, maybe you see an audiologist. Maybe you have an eye doctor that you see regularly. And so you need support to communicate with those people, right? So that's information we need to know. Maybe you see a specialist and maybe you see them regularly. That's a really good way for me to understand and work out what your interpreting needs might be, or what your communication needs might be. So we really need to understand that information. If you just tell me directly, I need 40 hours every week, my first question is going to be what for, you know? So we really need to go in depth to know exactly what you need, what those hours are and what they are for. The deafblind community, they obviously need a lot more interpreting hours because it's a lot more time intensive when we have your bookings. The LAC and the planner, if you ask them for 40 hours a week, they might be shocked at first. They might not realise because they don't understand what your needs are. So you really need to justify why you need that many hours. And once you explain that to us, then we will start to understand, and that will help us develop your plan. Some of you are from different states in Australia, I realise, and you have different organisations. Maybe in the past with your state, you know, you were provided some supports previously. That will finish as we move into the NDIS. So we really need to know what you had before in the past. We don't want you to all of a sudden miss out once you transition into the NDIS. We want to make sure those supports continue. So we really want to know what those previous supports were. We want to know if they were enough. Maybe they weren't enough. So that's really important information for us to developing your plan. Also inside the planning meeting, we'll be asking a lot of questions that maybe might feel a little bit off topic. And the LAC or the planner, they're asking those so they can really get a good idea of you and so that we're really covering everything. They could ask if you can shower on your own, and you might think, oh my God, I can shower fine. But other people with different disabilities, they may need support to do that. So we'll be asking a lot of questions, and some of them might seem really left of field and really strange for you. But we really need to cover every single part of your life to really work out your disability and what your needs are. Some people do need help in the shower. Some people, you know, do need additional supports, you know, so we need to make sure it's a safe environment where we can ask the questions that we need to ask. So please don't feel strange about some of the questions. We might talk about your previous supports from the government. Maybe you're receiving some equipment. Maybe you're receiving some Braille or different technology to help assistive Braille technology. Maybe you're using a magnifier, hearing aids. We will ask you about them. We will ask you how old you are. Also, we'll ask you how old the equipment was, whether it's been fixed. And that really helps us to know what you need going into the future. For example, if you have a Braille reader for your phone, that needs upkeep and maintenance. That needs to be maintained, and we need to do that on a 2-year basis. So the NDIS will make sure that we have the funding to cover that. But we can only fund you for that if we know. So really make sure you explain things in length. It's a lot, but it's really good, as Michelle said before, and Justin and David, to really prepare for your meetings. Prepare as much as you can. Have dot points with you before you go into the meeting, and those you can actually give to the NDIS or NDIS planner. And then they can see and they can understand why you're requesting those certain things. There might be points that they have confusion about, but you can elaborate on them during the meeting. And the points will help you remember what you need. It's impossible for you to remember everything you need. As David said before, you know, he was so worried in his meeting that he was going to miss something and that he wouldn't have everything covered. And I mean, that's one of the #1 reasons why preparation is so important. In the meeting, you can bring anybody you like with you, anyone you want. You can bring a support person. You have the right to have an advocate in the room with you. You can if you want. You can bring a family member. You can bring a friend. Of course, you know, you will have an interpreter if you need as well. Before, you know, you can also arrange to have your case manager come with you before the meeting if you feel comfortable. It's really whoever you want, whoever you need to support you through the process. In the meeting, after you finish answering all the questions, we'll ask you when the plan will be approved or confirmed. And we'll ask you how you want to manage that. And that can be a little bit of a hard decision for some people to make, how to manage their money. Before, with older supports from the government, it was already organised. All the background stuff and admin was already organised. But now the NDIS really want you to be aware over what you're receiving, the money that you're getting, and how you can manage it, because you are the person who has the disability, so you should be in control of your own funding. Previously, the government might have given funding to specific organisations, and those organisations would be providing you services. But now it's changed. The NDIS is giving you the money directly. So now you need to make the decision on what organisations you like. Maybe you have a great relationship with them, you like their services. So it gives you the power to pick and choose what you want. It gives you the control to say, I don't like that service anymore. I want a different service. It gives you choice and control. With the NDIS, you'll see and hear this term a lot. Choice and control. You will see it over and over again. You have the choice and control with the NDIS now. If you're not happy with the service, you can say, that's it, I don't want to use them anymore. You can, it's up to you. I want you guys to know that. It's really important. It's your choice and control.
Okay, cool. All right, moving on. In the meeting, when you've finished working out all the questions, they will ask you about money. How do you want to manage your money from the NDIS? You can automatically have the NDIA look after it, or that you can use a provider there with the NDIS. So when you go to the service, you can say, I want that. And they say, cool, sign here. And when you finish signing your name, that automatically happens and that claim automatically happens. Your second option is to have like a plan manager person or organization look after your plan for you, look after your NDIS money for you. And you can use any service. You can go get a service bill, you get a service bill, you give it to your plan manager, and they will look through the bill, approve it, take the money from your plan and pay for it. Or your third option is self-management. That means you can roll up your own sleeves and just get into it yourself. So you pay your own bills. You can get an interpreter. They send you the bill. You look at the bill, you approve it, And you say, yes, I've received that service. That looks correct. And then on the NDIS website, you click claim money and you receive that money and then you pay that person yourself. So those are your three options. They will ask that in the meeting. Which of these options do you want to pick to manage your money? Some people on their first plan want to get used to the NDIS as a whole thing and don't want to manage it themselves yet. So they pick the first option or the second option. But on the next plan, when they understand it a bit better, feel a little bit more confident, they go for self-management and say, I can manage this money myself. Really, that's a massive summary because planning can be a bit complicated. But I feel like I've covered all of the topics. So really, to repeat what Justin, David, and Michelle said, preparation. Preparation is key. Make sure you think, the last 12 months or the last 2 years, how many times have I gone to the doctor? How many times have I seen a specialist? How many times do I wish I could participate more in local and community events, but didn't have the support to do that? So write all of that down. Really, that is what people want to find out from you. That is what we want to find out from you. I feel like something's been missing in my life so far. What can NDIS provide me? What gaps do I have in my life that NDIS can fill? Yeah. For example, Michelle talked before about family. They don't sign. Her family doesn't sign. So on her NDIS plan, maybe she has money towards getting an interpreter to go with her to family events. So you need to think about, okay, in the past, I know I didn't have support then, but now, if I did have support, what could I do? What do I want out of life? Yeah? I think that's really the best way I can summarize it. So you've got different organizations, deaf-blind organizations, different people that can help you prepare. Ask as many questions, and that way you can feel confident in the meeting and explain, what do I want out of life? I think Meredith, yeah, it's all good. Yeah, from Meredith, wonderful. That's thank you. Yeah. I'll just swap. Bye, everyone.
Okay, so it's Meredith.
If you move a little bit to your right.
You need to. All good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to our 4 guest speakers who are now available to answer questions. There was just one point that wasn't covered that I'd like to make. When the NDIS contacts you to make your planning meeting date, you'll need to book interpreters or communication guide support, whatever support you want, and you have the right to change that date if you can't get the support you want on that date. So you don't have to just accept the first date they have. It's important that you have the supports that you want in there and make sure it's the interpreters you want and the communication support you want. So I also just wanted to make a point that we are going to be covering topics like self-management and what can I ask for in my plan, and go into those topics in a bit more detail. So today we're just looking at questions about the planning meeting and preparing for your planning meeting. So I know Karen and Melissa have been a big help writing down any questions that have been coming through. So I just want to check now with Karen and Melissa. So Craig, if you can unmute Karen and Melissa. So I just want to double check with them that they were receiving questions and that we do have questions for each of the presenters.
Hi, Mary.
Yep, Michelle needs to leave early, so we might bring Michelle back first. So yes, Karen, do you have some questions that came through on the chat?
I don't have any questions as yet, so perhaps now people have finished listening to the 4 excellent speakers. They might like to start typing in their questions into chat and we can relay. And I also had a couple of bits of additional information that I wanted to add to what has been shared today from my experience of pre-planning with some of my clients. Just a couple of gaps. If there's time, I'm happy to add that information as well. So start typing your questions, people.
It's Meredith speaking. So there's 2 options with questions. You can type them, but if you would rather sign it or speak it, you can click Alt-Y, or down the bottom there will be a thing that says More, and you can click on Raise Hand. So then Karen and Melissa will see whose hand has gone up and keep track of who put their hand up, and you can sign or ask your question on the screen. But that's why it will be important, because we'll have the interpreter's voice and sign. So you'll need to have your screen pinned to make sure you can see here.
Wilma has her hand up, Mary.
Okay, so perhaps first, Karen, I'm happy for you to feed in a bit more information, and then we'll get a question from Wilma.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was just a couple of gaps in the information. As part of your pre-planning, if you currently see any therapists or deafblind consultants, anyone that's providing you with support, it's good to get a report from those people that know you, that work with you, about what sort of services you will need in order to attain your goals. I will always submit prior to your meeting what your goals are, what pre-planning we did, what your goals are, what sort of supports will be required to meet those goals, and information about your condition from people who have been working with you. It just gives them the information beforehand, and it's helpful for you to go through that process as well, as everyone else has said. There is a planning tool that NDIS provide. I also complete that and submit that with all that other information. If anyone would like the link to it, it's really easy to work through. It gives you all the information about what to expect in your planning meeting and what sort of information you need to provide. So if anyone wants the link for that, I'm happy to provide it. Ryan mentioned about, and Michelle mentioned about interpreting hours and what to ask for. And it's really important to sit down and actually think about how many hours of interpreting you are going to need in order to meet your goals. And really important to remember, once you're an NDIS, you will no longer have access to NABs. So all of your medical appointments and therapy appointments and meetings with professionals, all of those appointments, all the hours to support those appointments, along with the hours to support your community access, all need to be allocated in your plan. You won't be able to access interpreting support anywhere else, except in the hospital system. One other thing as well, when you do get your planning meeting, it's your right to request a senior planner, like Ryan. So someone who has a bit more experience, a bit more knowledge, that's going to support you to develop the best plan that you can. It is your right, when you get your planning meeting, to go back to NDI and say, is this a senior planner? I have complex needs. I require a senior planner. And the only other thing that stood out a little bit, there was lots of talk about writing your goals, and NDIS will then fund your goals, your comm guide need and your interpreter need. It is really important to remember everything needs to be linked to your goals, and that those goals and the supports that you need have to be deemed as reasonable and necessary. That is a term like choice and control that you will see a lot. So it has to be deemed as reasonable and necessary. And how they work that out is it linked to your disability? Is it the most effective and most appropriate way to get that support? Is it cost effective? Is that the most appropriate either assistive tech or tool for you to use? So they will consider all of those points before they say, yes, okay, that support is reasonable and necessary for you to reach the goals that you've stated in your NDIS plan. I think that was about everything.
Okay.
So,
It's Mary. Thank you, Karen. I know, Paola, you have your hand up, and I know Wilma has her hand up. I just want to check if there are any questions on the chat come through.
just one, Mary, from Alicia. If you book interpreters or captioners for your planning meeting, who pays this? Does the NDIS pay, or does it come out of the funds in my plan?
So the NDIS will pay for your communication support needs in your planning meeting. Okay. So we'll bring Wilma across. Craig, can you unmute Wilma, please?
Yeah. How do I?
That's it. You there, Wilma?
Are you there?
Do I have to press anything, or can you hear me?
We can hear you. There you go.
Where do I have to press anything? Can you?
They can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. I just got a letter this week from the NDIS, and it tells me what is going to happen is that they will call me for access request. Now, I don't really want to have to handle that phone call at this stage. I want people with me. What do I need to do?
You need to talk to me, Wilma.
Beg your pardon?
You need to talk to me, Wilma.
Yeah, I am.
I know she must.
It's Meredith. That would be a good thing. Craig, can you mute Karen and we just...
Michelle would like to answer that question.
Okay.
And Ryan's also happy to answer that question. Oh, no, he's not. Sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. It will be good for everybody to learn together here. So I will hand over to Ryan because it's an NDIA question. So Ryan, if you can answer that letter, what to do with that or what the options are. After this, I will actually hand over to Michelle and David just briefly to explain exactly how they explain their deaf blindness. I think that's something that it's useful for everybody to learn the best way to get that information about deaf blindness across to the planners. So I'll hand over to Ryan to answer that one.
That's good. Need to talk
and so, Craig, can you unmute? Can you mute Wilma, please?
You'll see me? Is it all good? Okay, great. So can I just double check the question? Sorry, I've just lost it. What was the question again? Could you reiterate? I think it was Wilma, wasn't it?
It's Meredith. It was a letter requesting access. Or Craig, can you unmute Karen to explain?
So yeah, it was a letter advising that she would be contacted by phone for her access interview.
Okay, sure. Okay, so my answer to that would be that's just an automated letter that's being sent out. It's like a template letter. So that happens automatically, saying that there will be a call out. But on the access form that you fill out to the NDIS, you can write what your communication needs are and what's the best way to contact you. So I know on the form it asks whether you'd prefer SMS or if you'd like it communicated through email or letter or whatever your choice might be. There's a few different options. So if you write that down and you send it to the NDIS, then we will know what is the best way to contact you. But for now, that's just an automated letter. So it just is to call, but really we'll follow what you say. So I think the most important thing would be to fill out that form first. Is that all good?
It's Meredith.
I just push it.
Yes, yes, okay.
Thank you.
So if anybody receives a letter like that, I would go to your service provider as well to check. So lucky we knew you, Wilma, and we know you can go to Karen. So I would follow that up with Karen. So Craig, can you unmute Karen and Melissa? I just want to check if there's any more questions on chat or any more hands up. And Paula, I know you had your hand up.
So we have a hand up from Raj and from Kathy. And Raj has told us he's from Sydney and he is in the room with Irene and Sharon. And I also have a chat question from Marie.
And what's the question from Marie?
Marie's two questions. Is the deafblind coordinator a support coordinator? I'm assuming she means deafblind consultant.
Okay, it's Meredith. So a deafblind consultant is a different role, and really Senses Australia in Perth are the only organisation in Australia that employs deafblind consultants at the moment. So really they're a person who understands deafblindness that can help you navigate your way through the NDIS and also work with all your service providers to better understand deafblindness, work together with you to help get your communication and mobility needs met. So we'll go, so it's okay, there's the hands up in, we'll take Paula's question, so Paula, and then we'll get Michelle and David just to explain in more detail how they explained their deafblindness to the planner. But first Paula, and then after Michelle and David, we'll go to Sydney.
So that's me, I'm going now, you ready?
Yes, yep.
Okay, hi everybody.
Can one tandem, one sign and one voice?
Yep, sure.
Thank you.
We're just working out what do you want to do, Benji?
Old voice. Yes, so, hello, hi all. Can you see me all good? All right, cool. I wanted to ask Michelle. So you were talking about your plan, your first appointment with the NDIA. Can you explain the rules? What was involved halfway through? You realised some changes about your health and something happened with your program. So I was wondering if you found it easy to explain everything about the changes in your health and your situation. Did you go through an LAC or did you go through a coordinator, or what's the best, like, can you explain what was best for you, or did you use an LAC or a CM, or did you use both? How'd you get it done?
It's Meredith. Thanks, Paula. Michelle is just coming around to answer that question.
Yep, sure.
Not three people making sure there's no fall on my arse. Thank you. One from
That
Piala.
would
Yeah,
change,
yeah, yeah.
and
Okay.
one that-
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I can't see the cameras. Okay. The question was, when I went my first plan meeting, I was really having balance issues leading up after my accident. I informed the LAC that mobility is an issue and I'm going to need physiotherapy, etc. However, they accepted that. I actually gave letters from my doctors explaining my situation as well. There's further evidence. During my second review that I had, I pointed out that the changes since my last interview and this interview for my review plan, for my second plan, is that I had lost all of my sight. I had no sight, not even a little bit of light perception. Also, it was recognised that my balance has been deteriorating because of the weakness in my leg and also the dizziness I have. So that was also proven by the doctor, and also that was proven by a report from the orientation and mobility officer. So that was something that I brought back to the my second plan that I had with NDIS. So it's always a good idea if there are changes in your circumstances, as I think someone said before, I think it was Wilma said before, it's really, really important to back up everything with some form of evidence, whether it's a doctor's letter, whether perhaps you've had an OT, occupational therapist, or a mobility instructor saying, I think there's been a general deterioration in your mobility, because all of those reports and things are really vital. Once the once your planner, NDIA, has an opportunity of saying, oh yes, we've got professionals to back up what you're saying, that's proof. And they will work with you to make sure that your life will improve. Excuse me, Meredith, can you quietly remind me what the second question was, please?
So just explain how you explain the deafblind.
Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah. A really good idea is that when I went in for my first meeting, it's really important to remember that the planner, many people have not met a deafblind person. I think that many of them have not met very many deaf people or blind people. So it's important to realise that they have never perhaps met a deafblind person. They don't have any understanding or idea of what deafblindness is all about. Okay, what I did was I was able to get earplugs and also the simulated goggles that I brought with the meeting. And just towards the end of the meeting, I asked them to put the goggles and the earplugs in to get some experience of what it is like to be deafblind. And once they actually experience that firsthand, they then get to realise that, you know, we do have a lot of challenges. For instance, David will explain, you know, he might be losing his peripheral vision because of ushers. In my case, I lost that little bit of residual vision that I had. So, you know, it was impossible for me to get any direction of sounds because my implant doesn't pick up where sounds are coming from. So as my sight deteriorated, that made my mobility a lot harder. So it gave the LAC a lot of useful Oh, if that's what it's like, okay. So as long as they get an idea, and they found that very, very useful, and they really appreciate that if you go that extra mile, if you go work a little bit harder to teach them how to understand, the LAC will very much appreciate you trying to help them to help you, if that makes any sense at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you. So just, I think we'll bring the Sydney people on. So is it Raj I just want to make sure, Sydney, that if you've got more than one computer on, that you'll need to make sure all the others are muted, that only one has its microphone, that you don't let any sound come through the others or we'll get feedback. So have we got Sydney, Raj online now?
Yes, Meredith.
So was there somebody there with you that had a question?
No, not at the moment. I've got Irene and Sharon here, but they don't have any. They don't have any questions, they say.
Okay, that's fine. It's great that you were able to get together there in Sydney, and we had Wilma in Perth. So we'll just, Craig, can you mute Raj and unmute Karen and just let me know if there's any other hands up or questions. And also just Michelle, I know you needed to leave early, so Michelle can leave now. That's fine. Thank you so much for your input today.
There was one more question from Marie about, can you use more than one agency when you have NDIS funding?
I'll hand that over to Ryan to answer, and then we'll have David talking about how he explained deafblindness. So the question for Ryan is, can you have more than one agency working with you?
We're just doing a quick contemporary spot.
Yeah. All right, so I'm in the middle now. Okay, cool. So with your NDIS funding, you can choose how you want to use that, or where you will spend that, or what provider you will use. So you're not stuck with just one. You're never stuck with just one. So you can make the decision yourself. Maybe you prefer one agency and you give some money to them, but you're using a different agency for interpreters. Absolutely you can. That's completely up to you. But yeah, it's simple like that. It's easy like that. Yeah, good?
Great.
Cool.
Okay, so David?
Hello, David Murray speaking again. I think it's important to, as Justin said, have a narrative or a story about what it is as being a deafblind person. So when I was into planning interview, I asked the the LAC, if they understood what deafblindness was, and they said yes. We have fact sheets that they received from DBA that we created that explain what deafblindness is, the implications of deafblindness, and all the challenges of being deafblind, and also the list of supports that deafblind people need. So that was an easy start for me to be able to work with the LAC, to have that background information on deafblindness. And the LAC was quite approachable with questions and asked me, what does deafblind, what ways is deafblind, what ways being a deafblind person affects you in everyday life? So that gave me an opportunity to explain as a deafblind person and the limitations of being deafblind. So I have Usher's syndrome, and I explained the term. It's a genetic disorder characterised by blindness and deafness, and also explained that I have tunnel vision. So I gave them a demonstration with my hands of how much I could see. They gave the LAC a good idea of how well I can see. And then I explained the stories about my experiences of being deaf-blind, of how it affects my mobility, that I have a seeing eye dog. So Fiona was with me in the pre-planning meeting, so they could see that I needed Fiona to assist me with walking around. And I explained the implications of being night blind and not being able to see at night. And then that sort of opens up how I can be supported with my NDIS plan. So the more you can share about your lived experience of being a deaf-blind person, the better they can understand with setting up your goals and supports.
Thank you, David. Maybe stay there for a second. It's Meredith. So, Karen, can I just check? Craig, can you unmute Karen? I just want to check. Was it Kathy Egan's hand that was up?
It was, but I believe she's left. I can't see her name there anymore, so I'm assuming that she left the meeting.
Okay. Any other questions or hands up?
Not at the moment, no.
From Paola?
Okay, so we'll take a question from Paola. I'll just move you here so that if you sit here, David, and then we can have two interpreters, one relaying for Paola and one voicing.
Sign.
Screen.
So, and mute Karen again, Craig.
I'm signing.
Oh, right. I'm voicing. Yeah. All right. Did I say? Sorry, I thought I was signing. Did I say voice now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll repeat myself. Okay. All right. Good. Starting. I've met many deaf-blind people who they've been to a meeting with the NDIA the first time, and it's the planning meeting, and all the deaf-blind people, you know, they've got their case manager or support worker with. Many have, but one she was
David, that's me.
David, yeah. So ask David, do you feel like you should have someone to go with you? Do you think a support worker to go with you to the LAC or the NDIA? Do you think it doesn't matter, or do you think that you should have another deafblind person or someone who works with an organisation with you? What would be your suggestion? Who should you bring with you to the LAC to support? Or do you think it's not really important? Or because you said you were nervous in the meeting with the LAC, so what do you think?
Thanks, Paola, for that question. I believe you should bring your support person or an advocate or someone that has good experience with working with people with deafblindness, or even your partner. I would bring yourself along with me to provide another perspective of, you know what my life looks like. Even being deafblind, there might be something I haven't covered. They can back me up with extra information or answer any specialist questions that I might not be able to answer. So it's good to have that backup, you know, from your support person to help you get through the planning meeting comfortably without, you know, feeling nervous, and continue that support you get.
Meredith, just to remind you that we still have Justin here as well. So Just wondering if anyone has any questions for Justin, or if there's any hands up or any other chat questions. If you can unmute Karen.
Nothing at the moment, Mary.
Meredith, I'm hoping that's very positive, that we've covered everything in a lot of detail and people are feeling more clear and prepared. I know a lot of people do have NDIS plans already. I think it's always good to even know you're on track, even if you watch it all and go, yep, I knew all of that. At least you know you're absolutely on track and know what to expect and what to do for your next planning meeting. I perhaps might bring Justin back. I believe Justin has attended some planning meetings, even just to talk about his role when he's gone into planning meetings with people. Are you still there, Justin? We've got
No, he's not in the other room.
He might be getting a drink or something. Well, we might, I'll allow another minute or so, but if there's no more questions, so just remember you can ask a question by clicking Alt-H and writing a question in the chat box, or click Alt-Y to raise your hand. That means you want to sign or speak.
Paula's got her hand up.
Okay. So we'll take a question from Paula.
And Carol's also indicating she'd like to ask a question too.
And Claire has her hand up as well, Mary.
Okay. So, and we've got Justin back now. Okay. So, we've probably got the perfect amount to finish up with. So first we'll take the question from Paula, then we'll go to Carol, and then we'll bring Justin back on to talk about his role when he's gone into planning meetings with people. Okay, so Paula.
All right, hi everyone. I want to ask a question to Justin. So a deaf-blind person, say they get funding and they want to pay for a case manager or something like that. So the deaf-blind person asks an LAC, or not the case manager interpreting, or like saying, wondering if the deaf-blind person pays for the LAC support or only the case manager. What's the difference between an LAC and a case manager? What's the difference there? Because I'm wondering, case managers are probably very busy, so they're not available all the time. So they'll probably try and give you an LAC. So if there's a deaf-blind person, what advice can you give? How do you know what's right, case manager or LAC for yourself? How do you know? Or do you ask them both the questions, or?
Okay, hand over to Justin and maybe Ryan as well. So Justin, if you can answer that question, and then also your role in planning meetings.
Sure.
Yep.
Thanks, Paola. So I'll make it very clear. Support coordinator is a capacity building budget funded by NDIA. It is to provide intense capacity building work with you, to work on all areas of your plan, and to be available to assist you in lots of areas through your plan or issues with NDIS. An LAC is very basic support for those individuals that have already a lot of capacity to implement their own plan. So if you have previously had a case manager, most likely you'll get some support coordination funding. If you've never had case management before, the NDIA and the planner may assess you as being, you might need some support or you may not need some support. It'll vary based on the conversation that you have with the planner. and the supports that you have around you and the complexity of what may be needed for those supports to be in place. Okay,
There's no case management.
No, so to clarify that too, NDIS does not fund case management services. They fund support coordination. Case management is the old disability systems, or from allied health or the health department kind of areas. It doesn't exist anymore traditionally for disability. Okay, all right. Now, my role in a planning meeting. I have two roles in a planning meeting. First role is to make sure that the meeting flows for you and to be a support there for you, and making sure that the information is getting across and everything is prepared for the planner and you. But my role is not as an advocate. I'm not advocating for you in that meeting. I want you to do your own advocation. I want you to talk to the planner directly. I'm there to help both parties, the planner and the participant, to clarify issues or to make sure that supports are there for the day as well. But my other role within that meeting is also to make sure I take notes for you. I'm still working for you. Your plan is still funding my role. My job is to make sure the information is gathered by the planner. And if I think the planner has missed a question or not got the correct information, I might ask to interrupt and say, can we address that again? It's just that checks and balance for you. And then, of course, after that planning meeting, I am helping you getting ready for when that plan will arrive with your new supports in place. And once you have that new plan, you need to understand my role may cease if you do not have support coordination funding in your next plan. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
I have another question for Justin.
Oh, yeah. Is that a question from you, Karen, or from someone else?
No, from someone in chat.
Oh, yeah.
So the question's from Marie. How do I find support coordination?
That will be up to your individual state. It will depend what state you're in. So perhaps email me offline, and when we know what state you're in, we can link you with that. So we'll...
Marie.
Sorry, Karen?
Can talk to me, Marie. Marie's in WA.
So now we'll take a question from Carol and then Claire.
Interpreting support.
Yeah, so Carol in Tassie. Oh, one of you will need to stay because Carol will sign.
Oh, right there. New voice.
Our voice. Carol first. Hello, how you going? So this is the first time I've been involved in the NDIS with the LAC, so I am quite nervous. I think after Christmas I had my initial discussions for about 2 hours. It did extend by a half an hour. There are a few things I needed to clarify with the LAC to explain about my deaf blindness, and they had a few questions. You know, I explained to them that I had absolutely no hearing whatsoever and I had some degenerative vision and that I also used Braille and things like that. So I went into a lot of information and gave them a lot of feedback, and I thought that was a really worthwhile experience for the LAC. The NDIS then received my plan and sent it back, and it was indeed approved, which I was very excited about, and I was very happy. And I'll be going back to have another meeting soon, but I think it all went really quite smoothly and I felt like I got the supports that I needed, so it was a good experience for me. I had a support person come with me to the NDIS meeting because they knew me well and knew my needs, and you know, it helped me out and made the communication more clear. So I thought that that was worthwhile. But that's my experience and what I had to add. Thank you.
It's Meredith. Thank you for that, Carol. It's great to hear that people are having positive experiences as they're going into their planning meetings. So, Craig, can you unmute Claire now, please?
Hi, Mary. I don't have a question. I was just testing out the shortcut.
It's Meredith. I think a few people were doing that. That's what happened last time. So if you test your Alt-Y and it pops up, you can Alt-Y again and it will pop back down.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. It's good to have you online. So back to Karen and Melissa. Any other questions or hands raised?
Got a hand up from Ubuntu Studio.
Okay.
I think Eddie had a question before as well.
Oh, okay. And we saw
Kathy is back. Kathy is back and has her hand up again.
Okay, great. So first, Craig, mute Claire again, and please unmute Kathy. Sorry, Kathy, we did get back to you, but you'd gone, so I'm glad you're there now. Did you have a question, Kathy?
Oh, hang on.
Yep, you're online now. We can hear you.
Yes. Oh, I've gone out of the app. I don't know how I did that. But anyway, yes, I do have a suggestion for people, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
With my first plan, for some reason, my primary disability was blind with hearing issues. My second was with hearing issues. It should not have been. My primary should have always been deaf-blind. The only way to fix that I have found is to get a functional capacity assessment done by a qualified occupational therapist. It is a document that outlines your whole life and how your blindness and your hearing impacts on your life overall. It makes a huge difference to your plan. Please make sure that your primary disability is deaf-blind. Huge difference. It means that your plan will not be capped with funding. It will be done on a needs basis.
Thanks for that, Kathy. So, Craig, can you mute Kathy now? Thank you. I think with that, we could talk for a long time about getting deaf blindness as the primary disability, and we will save that for another webinar. But thank you for that feedback. It's really valuable, Kathy. So now, Eddie, if you've got your question or comment, and then Ubuntu Studios after Eddie. But first, we'll get a question from Eddie. So we need two, one to voice and one to relay.
Just one moment. So would you want me to sign? Okay, I'm going to sign. All right. Hi, everyone. Can you see me all right? Yep, it's all good. Okay, great. Perfect. So my name is Eddie. This is my sign name. I'm in Perth. Sorry, I have ushers.
Type 1.
Type 1. On 4 different occasions, I've had the NDIS funding. On the 4th time, my plan was approved. I had 200 and, sorry, Eddie, sorry, go back a bit. Yeah, just a little bit, sorry. Just a little bit slow more, please, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. We're having trouble seeing what was going on the screen. So the NDIS funded me 4 times. In 2016, 2017, 2018, and now this year, the 4th time, which has been perfect. And it's not been easy. It's actually been a really strict, hard process. The reason for that being that the first plan, I mean, it was good, but I had to do a bit of advocation to get what I wanted. It was quite hard to advocate for that. The second one, the funding had dropped in my second plan, and I really had to advocate quite heavily to get that boosted up to suit my needs. The third plan was terrible. My funding reduced quite significantly, and now with the 4th plan, it has improved. I need about 200 hours a year interpreting needs because of my deaf blindness. It's really quite difficult. So now I have, 200 hours for interpreters, which is fantastic. Plus I have my comm guides, and I need my comm guides. I need hours for comm guides. So I have those 2 now, which is great. I'm self-managed. And I'm learning the process. On my first round, I was a little bit, apprehensive, but I've gotten the hang of it now by the 4th round in. When I signed the plan, anything I needed and anything I wanted, I made sure to add to that plan before I sent it off. When that plan gets sent off, is there a board that discusses the approval of the plan? Like, how does it? So maybe Ryan, maybe you can explain this a little bit further. Maybe you can talk about that. I mean, your information has been fantastic, but with regards to the NDIA, they don't have enough experience over deaf blindness. So it is, it's not easy to have those conversations with the NDIS, and you do have to be very patient. So I'm just, I'm just wondering, that's what I thought. So do you need to actually bring a lawyer to advocate for you in those meetings, or do you need like a private, agency to come in with you to advocate more heavily for your needs in those meetings?
Can I jump in?
So if you could maybe help me a little bit more to, because when you're sitting there with the NDIA meetings, they don't really, they don't really understand everything you need. And so I'm just wondering if Karen possibly, it would be good to have someone like Karen in the room.
I need to finish, It's Meredith. I'm sorry I stopped you, Eddie. We're really nearly finished. and there was one more person who had a question. The questions you're asking are a bit more for future webinars. This webinar is focused on preparing for your NDIA plan. You're talking a little bit more about after that. And yes, I think we've heard from everybody that it's good to have a good advocate who understands the system and deaf-blindness in the meeting. So I think that's come through strongly. Craig, can you unmute Ubuntu or Studios? Ubuntu Studios?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Robert.
Oh, hello, Robert. Did you have a question?
That just happened to be I'm not sure how it got in there, Ubuntu Studio, but that's actually, interestingly enough, just quickly, was just using the live program on the computer, but it seems to prefer to work on the tablet, the Android tablet. Yeah, the question was support coordination, the amount of support coordination, does that vary by state? You know, like that was the question I wrote.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for that question, Robert. So, Craig, can you mute Robert now, Ubuntu Studios, and maybe Ryan? I'll bring back Ryan just for amount of support coordination.
Right, I'm in the middle. Is that all good? Okay, great. So the NDIA, when you have we have your information within the planning meeting, and we'll be accessing, like Justin said before, we'll be looking at your capacity and what you as an individual can do. And we'll be doing that while we're making the plan for you. So it really depends on the level of complication that you've had. If you've never received any disability support in the past, you've never had a case manager, if you're starting fresh for the first time and you're new to the system, that's when we would have a high level of support coordination. But if you're moderately aware of how things work, and you've had a little bit of education around the NDIS, but you still need to ask a few questions and to clarify a few things, then we would have moderate support. So it really depends on your individual needs and what your capacity is to use your plan.
Okay, it's Meredith. We've done our full 2 hours. Thank you so much to everybody who participated and attended today. It's great to see so many faces from all around Australia joining together. A very big thank you to Justin Elks, Michelle Stevens, David Murray, and Ryan Malonda for their excellent presentations and helping us all understand how to prepare for the NDIS better. Thank you to Sarah and Benji for interpreting. Great job. And it was a complex job. Thanks to Craig on technology, and thank you to Karen and Melissa for fielding the questions. I really appreciate all your help. Oh, thanks. And David's giving me a pat on the back. Thank you, David. Thanks, everybody. Our next webinar is on June the 5th. It's a Wednesday, the same time, 1 till 3. The topic is being finalised, but I will email it on the Deafblind list and the Deafblind information Facebook page and get that information out to you. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Karen.